Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. We're gathered here for a panel discussion that's going to feature some great jazz artists and will be led by none other than Steve Kraske from KCUR, Stan Kessler, and we have two panelists with the same last name, Lonnie McFadden and his daughter, Chloe.
Right in the middle of your lunch, dude. Right in the middle of lunch.
I'm going to turn it over to Steve Kraske. My name's Chris Burnett. I'm the president-elect of Kansas City Jazz Alive. We have board members here. I see Emily Berman. I see Daryl McKeag. And do I see anybody else?
Right.
I see Greg is a past president. Elected. Thank you. So Steve will take it over from here and he'll get us going. Thank you, Steve Kraske.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, everybody. Yeah, welcome back. Good to have everybody here. Thank you. Thank you. We're launching today the second, another panel of, to be a group of 3 sessions that we're going to be focusing on. And this session, all 3 of them are under the umbrella title of The Business of Jazz Artistry. And maybe Stan Kessler summed it up best on Facebook. He wrote this: most professional musicians understand that making a living as an artist requires a bit of diversity in the income stream that subsidizes their art. So today we're going to talk about what does that mean? Working as a sideman, playing in different genres than the one that you're maybe best known for, whatever it is to help you make a living and how these artists do it. Of course, Stan has taken this to extremes with his gutter cleaning service that he offers Kansas Cityans. Very low price, cut rate, discount prices, and Stan will come clean your gutters for almost nothing. And for those of you, I'm poking fun at Stan because he rather famously fell off a ladder just a few weeks ago, just 4 or 5 steps up and banged all kinds of stuff up. So I'm poking fun at Stan a little bit for something that's probably fairly serious. It reminds me not to get up on my ladder at my house ever again, which I still kind of do sometimes. So
I'll spot you.
Yeah,
Call me, I'll spot you.
Probably need something like that. So again, our panelists, I think everybody knows them: Stan Kessler, Chloe McFadden, Lonnie McFadden. Let's give them a big round of applause for coming out to see us today. Yeah. Well, Stan, let's start with you're in the middle of lunch. There we go. Let's start with your line on your Facebook post about this series, which you posted very kindly a couple of weeks back. Again, the quote I liked: most professional musicians understand that making a living as an artist requires a bit of diversity in the income streams that subsidize their art. So I guess my question is, what has that meant to you in your life? How have you broadened your reach to subsidize your art?
When I was younger, I had to, didn't have to do anything, but I subsidized my art by working other jobs outside of the music business. But eventually, my goal was always to be a full-time musician in some fashion, which meant, I realized early on that the more things you can do well, the better, especially as a trumpet player, because, trumpet players don't get calls like rhythm section players do. So I knew I had to be, diverse and know how to do several things well enough to get paid for it. And luckily, I like doing a lot of different things, so that helps. It wasn't anything I had to force myself to do. So aside from performance, most of us in the business teach, and whether it's private lessons or, academia, and also occasional recording sessions, occasional church gigs. A lot of musicians these days have regular church gigs. I'm available. Anybody wants me. So that requires, from a trumpet player standpoint, you got to have it helps to have some classical training, which I did. I mean, my teachers were all members of the Kansas City Philharmonic, if some of you are old enough to remember that. And so I had extensive classical training, and I was in the Kansas City Youth Symphony for 5 years. So all those skills came in handy. Sometimes I do, occasional show. I'm not part of the show clique, but occasionally I get one of those, where you're playing in a pit. And again, you have to have some proficiency on your instrument. Plus you got to be able to read. Reading helps. If you can't read, then you're cut out of a lot of work. And occasionally you get commissioned to write something or to do an arrangement for some people. That doesn't happen that much to me very often, but it does happen. And trying to think what else.
Stan, what's a bridge too far for you? I mean, will you do weddings?
Arnhem.
Will you play as a sideman for, I don't know,
I like the way you quoted Battle of Arnhem.
Yeah.
I'm a big history guy, so I know exactly what you're talking about. A bridge too far would be asking me to do something for free. That's several bridges too far. That's I don't do that. And I don't recommend people do that. Get paid something, A lot of people just want to play, but you can always get some money in it. If you play for free or you do anything for free, then there's the three things I feel that is wrong with that. One, you're not getting paid. Two, you're saying you're not worth anything.
Right.
And three, you're undermining the overall business, landscape for everybody else. You're underbidding, or you're driving the price down in general. So that's all. That's a bridge too far. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. If you hadn't answered, I would have been on you very directly.
Yeah, I mean,
you did answer my question. I appreciate that. I'll let you know when you don't answer my question.
I don't accept work that I can't do. That would be another thing. It's like some people, they say, yeah, I'll do that. And then they're not able to do it.
What can't you do?
Well, let me think about that. I'll get back to you.
Sure.
But yeah, I wouldn't play. Somebody asked me to play in a symphony. I used to be able to do that. I can't do that anymore. I'm not set up for that. I'm out of practice.
Right.
That's something. If it's like, well, you want to play fourth chair in the symphony on this number? It's like, no, I'm really not set up for that anymore. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be confident. Let somebody who actually does that on a regular basis do that. Not qualified.
Chloe, step in here. How have you diversified your income stream to make your life as an artist work?
For me, I feel like because I'm still in the beginning stages of my career,
Right.
I'm fortunate enough to have a mentor that's able to guide me through some of my gigs. So I'm able to still learn and then put it into me independently in what I'm doing. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I just I'm more so still in the learning phase. So I'm just kind of open to all opportunities at this point for me.
I mean, what does that mean? What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? I mean, if you get called for a wedding tomorrow, you're going to go play the wedding, or how do you feel about that?
Sure. So for the wedding bands I've done, they pretty much send the material and give me time to learn it. So as long as I'm able to learn it, I'm open to doing really any gig right now, because I'm more so trying to be a student and being on stage and carrying a show and things like that. So for me, it's worth it with the experience and what it's teaching me. So yeah.
What do you want to be? What's the goal? Where are you headed?
I want to eventually just be a full-time jazz artist, be a vocalist, a tap dancer, and an entertainer.
In the McFadden tradition.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good answer.
When did you? When did you decide you wanted to head this way? Like, just where have you been? How have you reached this point in your life that this is, where you want to go now?
When I was little, I've always had an interest of entertaining, the music, the arts. And then after I got 22, I got married, had kids. So I was staying at home with the kids and being a mom. But now my daughters are bigger, they're in school. So I'm back pursuing it again.
It must be a thrill to be back at what you
absolutely.
want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Huge blessing.
I mean, did you have any choice really with all the pressure from your father to go? I'm sure he was just on you. You got to tap, you got to sing, you got to do all this stuff.
It's funny because there's 6 of us. And so my other siblings ventured and did other things. And I feel like me and my sister, we were the only ones that pursued it. But my dad was never like putting it on us. He's like, if you want it, you have to pursue this. And then I'll help you along the way, but you have to put the work in, kind of thing. So yeah, this is something I always wanted to do.
Lonnie, did you see this coming in, Chloe? Grab that one.
Yeah, at an early age, I already knew that she had that thing that it takes. She could. A good example, I remember when Chloe was 7 years old and her sister was 12. They were part of a group of kids that was employed by the Kansas City Park and Recreation. Every week they go to a different park and they had a show. Chloe was the youngest one, but Chloe had no fear. I mean, she just automatically did it, and it put it in focus to me. About a year later, I got a call from Buck O'Neill's publicist. They were doing a birthday party for him at the gym. Said, well, Buck would really like Chloe, because he heard her sing the blues. He would really like Chloe to sing Happy Birthday. So we're driving down, her mom and I and Chloe's in the back seat, and I'm driving, and her mom said, hey, Lonnie, give her some coaching. And I thought, okay, I said, Chloe, you've seen these gospel singers, just all that kind of stuff. I said, sing Happy Birthday and do it like Happy Birthday, just, in that bluesy kind. She said, okay. And she just, we didn't go over any practicing, nothing. This is on the way down to the Blue Room. They gave her the mic. Buck O'Neill sitting where Chris, she got up, she said, Happy Birthday. So, I mean, she just worked it. And she was like 8 years old. So, I mean, it was scary. She automatically could just do it. The first time she tap danced with Ronald and I guess she was about 11 years old. We were at the Blue Room. And yeah, okay. About 11 years old. And she did a solo. And Ronald's like, whoa, Lonnie. And I'm like, I didn't teach her none of that. I recognized one step she did. And so it's like, yeah, with this one, I knew she had, but it was still up to her, because one thing about all my children, they've seen what being a musician looks like. They know what it's like for me to be working a day job at Hallmark Cards, and they know what it's like to see me in Las Vegas with Wayne Newton. So they know that. They know about the good times and the very lean times. And so because of that, I've never encouraged any of them to do this. I would never encourage anybody to do this for a living.
It just seems to me like talent is one thing, fearlessness is something else.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not necessarily related, but I'm hearing you say you got to have both.
You definitely have to acknowledge to yourself that this is what you want to do, because you're not gonna, like Stan was saying, that he's diversified in a lot of different ways. I came to a point where I decided I'm not gonna do anything but this. Now, with that decision also came the reality that I don't know. So it's like after the kids were of age and me and her mother broke up. So I basically had nothing to, only one's gonna lose is me. I never put, when they were growing up, I sold shoes, I worked at Hallmark cars, I sold women's clothes at Halls, I sold cars at Aristocrat. I've done all kinds of, I drove a school bus. I mean, I've done all kind of things in between gigs. But after I realized that I went through, it was just going to be me that falls, no problem. And I haven't looked back. I'm full. This is all I do is play.
Is there a, during those years when you were doing all that other stuff besides performing, is there a certain element of frustration, may not be strong enough, but frustration or even a little bit of anger that, hey, you are a talented jazz artist, but to do what you want to do, you've got to drive a school bus too. I could see some real frustration slopping over into that part of your life, and I wonder how you navigated that.
It was very humbling, but here's the thing. I grew up in Kansas City playing, and the gigs that were available to Stan, and I knew Stan back then, were not available to me because based on our color. Not now. Let me also say this. It had nothing to do with the musicians. Musicians, we've been ahead of the racial curve way before Major League Baseball. They get touted about Jackie Robinson, but I mean, you go all the way back as far as you want to, and you'll see that we as musicians. So to answer your question, is humbling as that was, it's always been a humbling experience for me. At 18 and 19 years old, I was making more money going to Japan than I could make in Kansas City because the gigs that Stan was doing, we were just talking about when I first heard him, it was at Crown Center. It's no way I could play. I had an all black band, and I just saw a documentary that Diallo French did. And even, I thought I was the only one that was bold enough to say this, but even Olita Adams, who's the star at the Signboard where Stan and them used to play sometimes, she said that it was a constant question, not just in Kansas City, wherever she went, how many blacks are in your band? And so when you grow up with that always being, with the backdrop always being that your talent and your skill level, yeah, but it's so many other factors. So when it came down to maybe the fact that I play jazz, that was so little to me. So I've always decided that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to figure out how to make. I played with a sequencer for a while. A lot of musicians were down on me about that, but
what is that?
Okay, it's like now, a lot of entertainers in Vegas, they play with tracks where the sequencer was a keyboard that you could have the bass sounds, you could have the drums, then you have the strings. And so I multi-track recorded all of my arrangements because, like Stan said, as a trumpet player, you're not going to get the first call's a piano player. Then they might add a bass player. They might add a drummer. The next person that gets added is a singer. So I tried to figure out, well, I know they want an entertainer / singer, but they got to hire at least a piano player. So I figured out how to eliminate it. And the only person that encouraged me was Carmel Jones. And he was the one that when I first did it, he was out in the audience. I said, okay, when he walked over, I said, here it comes. I'm getting ready to get a tongue lashing. And he hugged me, said, wow, man, what you doing? Anyway, so I've always just tried to figure out how can I work, and whether it's, and I'm basically like Stan, free's the only thing I won't do, but I'll play background for I don't know, a polka band. I've played in bands, salsa bands. There was 15 of us, and I think I made like $40. I think I've played in big bands where the leader, who I won't mention because everybody in here will know him, never paid me. I mean, I've done all kind of gigs that a lot of people will not do, but I grew up knowing that if I want to make a living at this, I got to play wherever. So
Mind if I chime in?
Yeah, Stan, please.
I worked, my father was a grocer. I grew up in the grocery business, so I could always get a gig at a grocery store. So I was working at grocery stores. I worked at Clearly Nature's Own health food store at 43rd and Main for 10 years. And but as far as what that made you feel like to do other stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, Frank, I mean, for me, it was just something that I knew I had to do. I didn't want to, like, okay, all of my friends, a lot of my friends back in the 70s and 80s, the thing back then was top 40 bands, and there were tons of them playing all over the city. A lot of them on the plaza and other places. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to play top 40 five nights a week. So I was always playing in alternative music bands, whether it was rock bands or jazz bands or whatever. And this jazz scene wasn't really that great back then. It's much better now. But I worked grocery store gigs for a painting apartments, you know. I didn't especially like it, but it was necessary because I was determined. Like Lonnie said, you just decide, I have to do this. You're compelled to do this. It's
Because you knew what you wanted to do.
I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that I needed to do it to feed my soul, you know, and feed my heart. And so some way I was going to make it happen. Eventually, I decided, I kind of resisted teaching for a long time. I didn't think I had anything to say or to give, or I wasn't organized, and eventually started teaching because I decided I didn't want to stock groceries anymore. And sometimes I would go to gigs and I'd be tired because I'd be working all day at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not really performing the way I could be. So a part of it's just you're just so dedicated to the cause.
Right.
Right? Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah, it's like you're compelled to do it. And so the other thing is, in a way, I know this may sound silly, but working a day gig to support your music is almost like a badge of honor, you know?
Yeah. Lonnie, at what point in your life did you decide, I'm jumping off the dock, I'm going all music all the time, I'm not doing the other stuff anymore? When did that happen for you? And how big of a leap of faith was that?
Well, it happened 2 times. The first time, I was 16 years old and I left home. I quit high school and I went on the road with the band named Clyde, Nim and Her. And that was
I remember them.
Yeah, I became a professional musician. At that point, that's all I did. But then, as life would have it, after getting married and having kids, I did these out. Now, the last leap of faith, which was probably the biggest one, because at 16, you're naive. You don't really know that you don't know. But at almost 50, I knew what so when I quit selling cars, that was about, this is 23. That was almost exactly 20 years ago. It was a conscious decision. I knew what I was getting, and I did it in the worst way. I would never tell anybody to do what I did. Every musician in this room or on the planet knows that the leanest month is going to be January. You just finished. Yeah. I was putting on my clothes to get ready to go sell cars. And I realized why I just had them. Why am I doing this? I don't have the kids. I don't have my ex-wife. And so after, it literally, I just snapped. I went in and I gave him my notice. As soon as I went in and he said, well, what, wait, Lonnie, what? Because I was good at it. And he said, well, I had one gig once every 2 weeks at a place called Vivace. It's a little restaurant in the north part of Kansas City. And that's all I had. But again, that leap of I just wanted it so bad. So I paid up my rent for 2, maybe 3 months. I had this old Mercedes I bought, for little or nothing. I had basically no bills. I figured, well, I'll eat tuna and drink water and a can of tuna, some water, and I'll sell my.
I'm a tuna guy.
I sell myself like I was selling them cars. And about 3 months later, I was working 4 and 5 nights a week. A year later, I was working 7 nights a week sometimes. But it's like it comes down to how bad do you want it, and I wanted it. I made up my ex manager came to see me when I was playing at a place because he was going to ask me. He was going to be gracious and give me my job back. And he sit back because, like Stan said, when you're doing something else and kind of playing music, your skill starts doing this. Maybe nobody else knows it, but you know what you used to just be able to do without thinking about it. And then all of a sudden you go for that thing that was yours for the last 20 years and you can't do it. And that scared me. And that was one of the things that made me quit. And when the guy came to see me, he listened to me and he told me, he said, I came to offer you your job back, but you would be a fool to come back. And he was
really?
Right.
That's good too. Of all the people I've known in my life, I can think of hardly anybody else who probably would have been a better car salesman than Lonnie McFadden. So we give it up for that. I mean,
But you said you were.
Chloe, am I right? Chloe, yeah,
I thought, of course you were good at it.
yeah.
You sell ice to an Eskimo.
Let's move on.
Can you guys talk a little bit? Chloe, let me start with you. So when you want to get booked into a jazz club and you want to get booked into to do something that you really want to do, what strategy do you employ? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? Give us a little insight for those of us who aren't in that world. How do you line up gigs, the kind of gigs that you want?
As of this point, I've been fortunate enough that people reach out to me and, that's how I've been able to book. But for in the future, I definitely am open to pursuing other things. And I more so look at, I'm a jazz artist. And so I know right now my entertainment isn't as good as I would like for it to be. So my comfort zone is like hotels, more relaxed places. So those are the type of venues I would pursue.
At least you recognize that. You know where you want to go, but you're recognizing where you got to be right now to get better.
Sure.
But the phone's ringing.
Yes.
The email's popping. That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Stan, how about you? I mean, you have your regular thing. How do you work it?
How much time have you got? Yeah. Well, this is something I've learned over the years. You got to be aware of what the venues are first of all, and then you got to kind of check out to see who's playing there, and then you go there and see if it's someplace you want to play. And I mean, some people will take any gig; they don't care. I've got to the point where I'm a little bit more selective, which is nice. And it didn't really hurt me financially, turns out. So that's kind of the way the universe works, right? You follow your joy, and you'll be prosperous. So, but it does take a leap of faith to do that. I mean, I've had the leap of faith myself several times, and it's always worked out. So, but then you got to figure out who to talk to. Sometimes it's the owner, sometimes it's the manager, sometimes it's an agent, God forbid. And
why do you say God forbid?
Oh, because they're a pain in the what. Sometimes. I mean, there are very few managers. Usually they do very little and they take too much. They make one phone call and then you got to pay them 15-20% off of every check after that. I can do that. I don't need them for that. I mean, now, but the thing is, it used to be you had agents were big. It's not like that anymore. Usually now it's more an independent thing. Musicians are on their own as far as getting gigs. I like it better.
I mean, are you walking in selling yourself, or your friends going to the owner saying you got to get Kessler in here?
Well, that happens occasionally, but mostly, I contact them either directly, like go there and meet the person if they're available. There's really no substitute for that. I mean, with all the technology we have and, email and Facebook and Instagram or whatever, there's still no substitute for just meeting somebody in the flesh, because it shows that you care. For one thing, you show up. I mean, you took the effort to actually go there and maybe buy a meal if it's a restaurant, or have a drink if it's a club. Spend a little money because, again, But and you got to be able to talk about what you do, or write about what you do, and make it sound like it's something they want. It depends on the place. Every place.
To what extent aren't they already familiar with Stan Kessler?
Oh, yeah, that's why they're not hiring me. No, just kidding. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Yeah, a lot of them are. But here's something that I've been running into lately, and I get it. That I'm finding in my world that there is such a thing as age discrimination. That like the places I used to play in regularly, the clientele's younger people, and so they tend to want younger musicians. That's just, but that's kind of a natural thing. I don't blame anybody for that. Why not? Well,
I would. Seriously.
Well, it's just the way it is. And it's like in the music business, things you can't change. It's hard to change the paradigm. It's hard to change the way it is. It's been this way forever. Now, in some circles, though, getting older actually gets you more gigs in a few places. But I'm just not all the places. But I think some of the places, they want younger people. They don't want to see older people up there necessarily. But that's just one thing. I mean, I still feel like I have a lot to offer a venue, and I can feel like I can engage an audience and keep them interested and keep them happy while I'm feeding my own artistry at the same time. And that's a thing I've always kind of tried to do, is find that where my artistry and what the people need overlap, so that everybody can be happy. I just want everybody to be happy. So
I like that about you.
I want to feel like I got something out of it. I want to feel like they got something.
At what point in this process do you get down to money? What you need to
well, in most places, you already know. I mean, if you have friends, for instance, that are playing somewhere, you already know what people are getting. And there's kind of all the people who have venues, like whether you're a manager or an owner, they all pay attention to what's going on around in town. They could see what everybody's getting paid. They're pretty much aware. So it's not like exactly the same necessarily. Although some places pay a little bit more, but it's kind of in a general. And it's not enough, considering the amount of time you put into your craft, and all that you have to do before you even get on stage, all the hours of practicing and hustling gigs and getting rehearsals together and getting your repertoire together, and all this stuff that you do. There's hours and hours behind the scenes, so you don't really get paid for that. You get paid for the time you're on stage.
And you're saying if they're not able to meet a number, you're walking. Is it?
Well, it depends on what the number is. Yeah. I'm not going to play for 1980 money.
Yeah.
I just won't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, some people will. I'm just not one of those people. I don't really like myself when I do that. For instance, I just had somebody, I'm not going to say who, wanted me to play a 4-hour jazz gig for $75. And I said, I love you, but I haven't, I don't walk out the door for anything less than $100, period.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even leave the house.
Yeah.
And that's usually like, it's $100 for, or maybe $125, or maybe $150, like somewhere between $100 and $150 for a 3-hour gig in most places. plus tips if you get tips. And then other places is a little bit more, but it's in that same general area.
Yeah.
That's not really good money, but that's why I teach. And I like teaching. I didn't think I would like it. I didn't like it at first because I didn't have I didn't have my thing together, but I like it now. I like it a lot. In fact, one of my favorite students is sitting right over there in the audience, right there, Nick. Say hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, so
Lonnie, how do you approach this whole thing of where you want to play and getting the gigs that you want? What's the strategy?
That's a good question. A lot of it has to do with what's the vibe in the place. Like some places have a really good vibe, and if I walk in, I like the way it feels. I like the way I can sense people are having a good time. Now, if I go into some place, for instance, and there's a bunch of screaming drunks, I'm not going to play there. I just want. Now, a lot of people don't care, and they're impervious to that. I for better or for worse, I'm a really sensitive person when it comes to what's going on in my environment. And so, if I'm trying to play, and what I do is difficult. I mean, Lonnie will attest to this. Playing trumpet's hard, and it requires a lot of work before you get on stage just to keep your chops together, right? And then when you're playing jazz, it's a challenging thing. Or maybe you're just reading a chart, in an orchestra or something. So it requires a lot of concentration. So my point. And so if somebody is disruptive to the point where it breaks my concentration, then I get frustrated. Now, I know lots of people who doesn't even bother them. Everybody's a little bit different.
Do you want to take this moment and tell everybody what your minimum is to climb the ladder and clean the gutter? This is your chance to go there again. Great gutter cleaning service, Stan Kessler.
It's $100.
Y'all were a little slow on the pickup on that. Just right there.
$100 to even get the ladder out of the garage before I even get on it. Yeah.
Lonnie, talk to us about how you approach. What's your strategy for getting the gigs you want around town?
Well, obviously, it's a little different for me now because of my present situation, but I'm going to sound like a bum after a stand because I play anywhere. I play in your backyard. I play in your basement. I play in the corner. I don't care. The way that I got invited to the table to have Lonnie's Reno Club, I was playing in the parking lot. That's the honest to God truth. There's no place I will not play. I just like to play. When I leave here, I'm going to go in my basement and I'm going to play. It's going to happen. I mean, I just like to play. So, but when I negotiate, my rule that I've learned through the years is if I find out, and this is a quote that somebody else said, but I live by this. If I understand how to help you to get what you want, I think I can get what I want because you help. So if you're a restaurant that sells dinners that people is going to cost them $100, you want the clientele that's going to come in there and buy those $100 dinners. Most places in Kansas City don't have a cover charge. And like I said, I was playing 7 days a week for like 8 or 9 months at a time. But the way I did that is I would go into a place because I don't have any standards. I would go and just see what, if this is, I was playing at the Peanut. I was playing at a place called Bojo's. I was playing at Plaza 3. I was playing at the Phoenix. I was playing at Sullivan's. And I was teaching once a week, teaching tap dancing. And all of the places I just mentioned are completely different. Mm-hmm. And so what my job as an entertainer, and for me to make a living as an entertainer, I've always dealt with what is it that's going to help this Plaza 3 to get
Right.
what's going to help the Phoenix, what's going to help Bojo's, what's going to help the Peanut, what's going to help Sullivan's. And so that has been my approach. And if I can help them to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish on a business level, usually after I've been there for 3 or 4 months, I'm able to say, look, I'd like to you to reevaluate what we're doing. And if you feel like I've earned it, I would like to request a raise. And every time I've got it. But it's not, I don't think it's because I'm a great trumpet player, or a great tap dancer, or a great singer. I think it's because I approach it as a business. But that's me. That's my way of doing it.
I don't want to ask something insensitive here, but you just mentioned that your circumstances have changed. We all know your circumstances have changed. How is that? How are you adjusting to that? And how's that been for you?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, it's wonderful, but I wear a lot more hats. Like I told Chloe yesterday, we did a rehearsal and I didn't get a chance to do the second part of the rehearsal till I think I showed up at 9:00 last night. Yeah. We started at 4:30. I had to leave and go do a PR thing for Diallo's movie. Then I had to come back and rehearse with her at 9:30 until we finished at about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So it's like I got so many things that I'm doing now because I am Lonnie of Lonnie's Reno Club, that to squeeze in time to practice is getting to be a challenge. But I mean, that's what comes with the territory. I mean, I was jumping off the bar at the Phoenix. I mean, so I'm happy. I'm not complaining, you know.
You know, Stan, Chloe, can you talk a little bit about where do you want to play? Can you name names?
Where do I want to play?
Where are the clubs in the metro? Where do you want to play?
By the way, not even a little bit. Where do I want to play? That's a good question. Nobody ever asked me that.
Where are the places to play in town? I'm just curious.
Well, there's several. Well, I always want to play where music is the focus. That's number one, like the Blue Room and here. I mean, right now, maybe you can think of something, because your situation is pretty unique because you get to go, you have your own place, which is amazing. Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I mean, it's really, and you deserve it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what you do is unique, and it's always the highest quality every single time. You're somebody. I mean, for me, I know we're contemporaries, but you know, I've learned a lot from you, and we never talked about that, so maybe we can do that sometime.
No, you about to.
No, seriously. No, man, no, you're. So, but anyway, yeah, the places like that. I mean, I played at almost every place in town at one time or another.
Sure, yeah.
I was playing at the Hey Hey Club. That's a neat place to play. Stock Hill is kind of fun. Chaz can be fun. I mean, they're all. It's like Lonnie said. You're always trying to meet the needs of the place that you're playing at. But the nice thing about, and I'm fine with that to a point. I can send it if it's someplace that's got just a room full of screaming drunks. I really can't. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I wish I could sometimes. But you know, where the music is like number one kind of place, or it used to be the Black Dolphin when they had a stage. You know, when the band was up on a stage and the audience was there, and the stage. It was more like a music room then.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like playing at the Green Lady because the people are literally almost in your clothes. I mean, they're like right there. But I mean, it's got a couch. It's like this.
Yeah.
and I'm up front too. So like a lot of times there'll be disruptions going on, and I'm just the most vulnerable person because I'm the one out front, like a singer. Whereas the drummers back there going, "What's your problem?"
Yeah.
Right? Because the drummer is surrounded by the drums and by the sound of the drums, so they're not exposed to the same thing. Except at the Green Lady, where there's people sitting right behind you, and and that's like more power to those people that are going to do that. I like playing downstairs at the Orion Room because again, it's a stage, and then there's the audience.
Yeah,
there's a separation there, which is I think good for everyone. Frankly,
Chloe, where do you want to be playing? What's your dream list? Where do you want to be?
I like the Hey Hey Club a lot, like Stan said. Libations and Company, I believe is the name. I think. Yeah, I think they're really cool. I really enjoy hotels because it's calm. I like calm. I really like speakeasies. I like the vibe of like little small intimate spaces,
Yeah.
So for now, that obviously may change, but by me being a tap dancer, that probably will change. But
there's opportunity that Chris was telling me about. I wasn't familiar with it. It's known as the Jazz Road through South Arts, which arranges these tours to give artists get them on the road around the country. Is that something you're familiar with? You've tried either, you guys?
Road gigs?
Yeah. Well, it's called Jazz Road, where this organization puts jazz players on the road around the country to expand their exposure, expand the art.
Okay, but you're talking about going on the road.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in doing that. I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
And I think, there are people my age or older that are on the road, but they've been doing it their whole lives, and they're well-known people. So, like there's certain jazz icons out there that are still going on the road, and it's all great because they're used to it. I've never been a road guy. Not cut out for it. Plus, it's more in general, except for those exceptions. I think it's kind of a young person's thing. I know a lot of people in this town who go on the road, and even for them, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, they come off the road, they go, God, that was rough. I'm glad I'm home. So,
Lonnie, how about you? Is that you familiar with that?
No, but I'll do it. I mean, I want to play. I period. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
No intelligent like
yeah.
No.
The whole idea when we said that, Chris and I both fortunate to serve on the initial for South Arts, create the Jazz Road initiative. And then I subsequently served on the panel to select the artists. But the whole idea behind it is to help defray the cost and lower the barriers that artists have and venue owners when they're working, traveling, touring artists.
How do I sign up?
So that it's about providing access to the audience. And it's really a very well thought out. It's not because Chris and I are, but they were there because toured around the country. They had 10 different touring groups like Chris around the country. The people was all together. They got a deal with my friend Sarah Donald, who was caretaker of really rolled it in South Arts record, on the time to kind of manage this thing. And the whole idea is again to lower the barriers because artists want to travel to play. Some, to Stan's point, don't want to travel. This provides them with an opportunity to do that with lower barriers that made it an impediment to do it in the future in the past. So what we found is that, you can get a grant that pays up to $40,000 for your touring expenses, plus an additional grant to pay for support staff to help market you and promote you and do all of that stuff. That not only helps the venue pay less, but they also have to have skin in the game. Venue can get this for free, but that helps them. That also helps build audiences. It's really becoming Like,
Greg, you spell it Lonnie to sign him up. Lonn.
Let's hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I will hope that, my push from years and years ago when I first came to town was to see more Kansas City musicians take advantage of a lot of these competitive granting opportunities, not just the South Arts, but, on the FACE thing, the French American Cultural Exchange, the Chamber of American Music, the stuff through the Doris Duke Charitable Trust. There's the NEA. There's so many opportunities for artists but you have to know what they are, and you have to lift a pencil or a pen, and you have to get your work to them. You have to apply.
Yeah.
And once you do, you get into their radar, then you become a commodity for them in the future. And so I begin to see a lot of these artists who maybe applied for something 5 years ago or 10 years ago are now doing more, now getting more grants from various organizations. So I always encourage Kansas City artists to increase their visibility.
I appreciate that. And I don't know about anybody else here, but Lonnie, when I sense your enthusiasm for what you do at this point in your career, I find that incredibly invigorating, and I just am so taken with it. And it comes through when you're on the stage, man. It comes through in enormously, and good for you. I just think that's an amazing gift you've got. Your questions? Yeah.
Correct. Well, yeah, I mean, no, the $100, that's my pay. Basically, I'm a contractor. That's the legal term. And I'm in sole proprietor of my own business. So when I do a gig, normally, except for one exception, two actually, Take Five Coffee Bar, she used to pay everybody individually. I said, why are you doing this? So much more work. She said, well, my bookkeeper told me I should. I said, your bookkeeper doesn't know what he's talking about. But anyway, and Corvino, they pay individually, but everybody else, I get a check for the full amount, and then I pay sidemen. And so I'm a contractor, and they're subcontractors, and they get a 1099, not a W-2. And that's how that works. And then, I pay for my own insurance, and I pay for everything. So that's what. What? Pardon me? Well, some of them do. Yeah. Like, for instance, Corvino, they get it. They're wonderful people. They love musicians. They get what we do. The owner, her best friend is a musician. I mean, they understand all that. They totally get it. That's Christina. Her best friend is Shay Estes, who's a singer. So she gets the business. I mean, they have parties out at Shay's farm with all the musicians in town, stuff like that. So she hangs out with us. She gets it. We get treated like kings there. Another place was, Stock Hill. The guy who's a manager there is Phil Eagle. Oh, he used to be he was a jazz trombone major at UMKC. He used to book gigs at Louis Wine Dive in Waldo, and I used to play there because I knew Phil. Well, actually, there was a guy before him, and then Phil took over. So sometimes, there are people who get it, and then the rest of them, they don't get it, and really they don't care. But they're just trying to make money.
Your question's raising something that's going through my mind, which is based on this conversation today. And that is, unless you really want this life and are willing to do whatever it takes, you aren't going to be able to do it. And what's going through my mind is, I wonder how many young musicians in Kansas City are willing to make the sacrifices and do what you guys do to make a living? And how much talent are we losing if they're only 80% committed and not the full 100%? Because what I'm thinking is you got to be 100% committed to make a life here and do what these guys do.
Sometimes that, you know, in the future, I'm going to want to collect Social Security, so I just can't take the money and put it in my pocket.
Right.
Or, I mean, I have to go to income eventually.
Right.
I don't want to, yeah. Oh, me too. Timothy McBrien, he took pay in alcohol. Yes. And that, you know, 18, 19 years old, drinking, and I know when he plays the bar and he wanted to not script. You know, they're on the job here.
Right.
Well,
Now, a lot of play there and drink all you want, and that's fun when you're 17.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
The only one kind of a one hope is for the beginning of that. So last year, I think yeah, that's a lot. Always now the develop template of the plan. So in we can use to do workshops, a couple of sessions that we did where we invite different funders, willing to global from American, people from Artistry Foundation, from American, from France, we had a whole community. The whole idea, and I think I remember saying you were at 40 musicians who showed up. And the whole reason why we did it, but I just think we just sent it over to the garden and spent 3 days having this incredible panel session with Prince American Cultural combination partnership with the New York Arts Alliance, the Prince American Cultural Chamber. Anyhow, out of about 200 proposals, there were only about 3. And so I went to forget what it was. And so I thought, well, we can work on that. So we did. People showed up, artists showed up. They had a new master, and then that time there were about 30 of them. With several actually got and they got to it. So I think that we always have to apply. That's the bottom line answer to the question. But the application process is easier when you apply because you develop your ability to write about yourself and tell people your narrative and sell yourself in a way that is appealing to that group. And then if you want to even get better, if you go to people who have experience doing that write a grant for this that puts you in their criteria or headspace. Because everybody's different, right? And what they're looking for, what criteria. Right? That doesn't mean you sell your soul, right, Lonnie? You can still be yourself, like Lonnie so beautifully is, and get that money, right? And so, I still believe that we are underrepresented in this country when it comes to all of these different grant opportunities for people. And I know sometimes that I'm sorry, I was told not to talk too much during these things. Some people they get out of thinking person that is too hard. I don't have time to do that. Okay, then you just kick off $40,000. Right? That's your attitude. And I said that to my fellow artists who have those excuses.
Greg, Bobby hasn't been named an NEA Jazz Master yet. Yeah, okay. It's in the pipeline. Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't look at it as an excuse. I wouldn't use the word excuse. I would look at it as reason.
As a what?
A reason. A reason not to do it. Some people don't want to take the time to do it.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse. It's just a reason for not doing it.
Well, it depends on if you're not a side conversation, excuse maker or reason.
Well, some people only want to make excuses. Some people have reasons. Yeah.
Words over why they're not doing it. My whole point is that we're not doing it. And I just see that we're leaving money on the table, Kansas City, particularly Midwest. And I'm also speaking for artists in Chicago who are leaving money on the table, folks in Colorado who are leaving money on the table because they're fine. And those
for individuals health grant, because I think there's some people that wouldn't have the capability.
Yeah, there are. In this room, in this room, there's probably 18. In this room today, right now, I can go around this room and point out who can be a mentor, who are mentors. But I think the thing is first and foremost, you have to know that they're available. Right? So I would urge Jazz Alive to continue to make these opportunities for people.
Right.
Resource areas so that people know these opportunities there. We encourage artists to make themselves aware of opportunities and keep checking in. And then they have to go through the process. They can call it me, call it Emily, I'm sure. We can speak for Emily Berman or Burnett.
You hear from me.
Yeah.
Apply for hundreds of, probably applied for over 5,000 applications with my. It's a lot of writing, but it's a lot of templates. The other night I cranked out 3 proposals for an organization because I had templates. It takes, the first time I do it, it may take 4 hours. The third or fourth time I do that same proposal, it may take me 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Cut and paste. Yeah. Other questions? One more. How do you guys get the word out that you're available outside of, you mentioned going to clubs? Chloe, how are you getting the word out? Social media. What are you doing?
Yeah,
to
social
spread,
media for me, I
spread?
feel like is like nowadays a really big way to put yourself out there. So for me, I'm in groups and on my own pages and networking.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Lonnie?
Well, it's kind of like I said earlier. My present situation now, I only leave what I'm doing if somebody calls me, a country club gig, a convention, the Kauffman Center, different things that I do outside. But when I was out here, I mean, Chloe even asked me, they said, well, if the Reno club, if something happens tomorrow, what would you do? Well, If that happened tomorrow, you all would see me at every jam session. You would see me. I would put together all of my promo material, and I would make a list of every place that hires musicians that I think I could play at, and I would go and meet these people. I'd be banging on doors. I would do that if I could, and I would have a schedule for myself. Tonight I'm gonna go to bam, 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 and I would do that. That would be my job until I got a job. My job would be to find a job, and because I would be calling Stan, hey man, you got anything? You need a trumpet player? I'd be calling you. You need a tap dancer. Can I sing background? I would do whatever it takes to be playing music, and that would be my strategy. I would make a list of places that hire live music. I would put together my bio. I would, again, everybody that does what I do has a bio. I would revisit it because I haven't redone it in probably in a couple of years. I would look at it and redo that. I would have my bio ready, and I would sit, like Stan said, I wouldn't just rely on sending somebody an email. I would go out and shake their hand and talk to them and buy a drink and see what their club is like or their restaurant, and see what it is they're trying to accomplish. What kind of clientele do they already have, and what do they want more of? I would want to know, how can I help? And if I could, once I get there, I mean, like a lot of musicians used to tease me, said, Lonnie, once you get it, you keep it. I mean, I was at the Phoenix for over 15 years, almost every Friday straight. I was at Plaza 3 for over 20 years until they quit. I was at Sullivan's for 7 years, and I left because I got a Johnny's Jazz Bar, and I was there until I got Lonnie's. I mean, I would, yeah, I'm sorry, but that's what I would do.
Stan.
Oh yeah, everything he said. I would go to all the gigs and hang out, talk to the manager or the owner, or find out who it is I need to talk to, get their number, call them. But also, sometimes you can sit in with groups if you know that they know you, and that helps. If you show that you can connect with the audience and the musicians, and people notice that. I want to know, everybody knows everybody in this town. I may just start asking my fellow musicians where they're playing, who I should talk to. I mean, the thing about musicians in this town is everybody is helpful. I mean, there's nobody worried about, well, if I get this guy, the manager's number, I'm going to lose my gig to them. So nobody has that attitude here. Everybody's all the musicians are supportive of each other, which is a really cool thing about Kansas City, because that's not the case in other places. It's just not. Because I know people who live in other towns all over the country, and it's like, no, it's cutthroat. They don't want you even showing up. They don't want. They want to. People are very possessive about their gigs, but it's a free market, right? That's capitalism. Everybody has a right to go after a gig. So, but yeah, social media is big now. I mean, I'm on obviously Facebook and Instagram, and I'm always publicizing my gigs. I got a mailing list, as some of you know, of over 1,300 people that I send out my schedule every month. So that's part of my thing. It's like when I go try to talk myself into a gig, that's one of the things I mentioned. I said, well, I do this and this, but I also have a mailing list, which a lot of people don't do, which they should, because it's free. I mean, my philosophy is, like, when it comes to promo, do everything you can that's free. Just don't pass anything up. A lot of people think, ooh, email, that's for old people, or that's passe. And it's not passe, because the great thing about email is that you don't have to, it goes right to the person's lap. They don't have to search for it. Yeah, it's there. There's Stan's schedule. It's like,
Well, the next session in our series on the business of jazz artistry is going to be on private teaching. Then we're going to wrap it up with recording artists and recording that part of the business. Those will be in future weeks. In the meantime, let's give Stan, Chloe, and Lonnie a big round of applause for being here once again today. Very nice job, guys.